No worries. It just might take a couple minutes. Just had a couple of questions. He said that you were still interested in selling the house and you were open to a little seller finance possibility.
What does that mean?
It means that you become the bank and we pay the number you're looking for and we make payments over time.
I don't think I'm interested in that.
Is that?
Few sentences into the call, seller Marvin just straight up says, "No, I don't think I'm interested in that." 14 minutes later, he's agreeing to the investor's own number, 270 grand. No pressure, no hard pitch. The seller basically talked himself into it. I'm going to break this down step by step and show you the exact moment it turned and the little moves most people never notice. Hey everyone, my name is Andrew, and these days I'm full-time building tools for real estate investors. Before that though, I was on the acquisition side of a creative finance team. I was the one who was helping to set up the systems that we used to buy with the Morby Method, and I was the guy who was actually on the phone running these conversations with agents and sellers. I'm not some guru who's closed a million deals. What I am though, I'm the person who got a little obsessed with what actually happens on the calls, the psychology of it. So here's what I keep noticing in this space. A ton of us are losing deals in seller calls, and we have no idea why. So I started taking real calls apart, beat by beat, to pull the hidden moves out into the open. And for the first one, I went straight to the best. If you do creative finance, you know Pace Morby. The man is the GOAT on seller calls. So let's break down exactly why. Okay, let's get started. To get things set up, before Pace ever dials, he does something that people might skip, and that's getting any information that he can from others that have interacted with the seller first to try and get a read on the situation. He probably talked off camera with the investor before getting on the call.
Marvin, Hampton, Virginia. All right, real quick, he plays golf. His wife was Matt's middle school teacher over 20 years ago. Holy moly. She has Alzheimer's and
I found that out.
he recently moved her into a home. Very nice guy, ready to move forward with terms, just need to explain them better. Okay, cool, let's do it.
All right, so what we just saw there, here's what we know going in now. The property's in Hampton, Virginia. Marvin's a golfer. His wife's a former middle school teacher, has Alzheimer's, and he recently had to move her into a care home. So make sure to hold on to that last one. Most people might file that under small talk, but by the end of the call, you'll see it's probably one of the most important things on the table. The principle here is that a good seller call starts before the call. Now we're getting into the actual start of the call, so listen to the open. Pace comes in with a bit of a higher pitch in the voice. It's warm, he has a friendly tone, and right away he ties himself to someone Marvin already knows, who is Matt. He's borrowing trust.
Hello?
Hi, is this Marvin?
Yes.
Hi, Marvin. My name's Pace. I'm partners with Matt Sudduth. How you doing?
All right.
Did he tell you to expect my call today?
Been kind of busy. I think he did, and I might have forgotten about it.
No worries. It just might take a couple minutes. Just had a couple of questions. He said that you were still interested in selling the house and you were open to a little seller finance possibility.
What most people hear is just a friendly hello. What's actually happening, though, if you listen to Marvin's all right, when Pace asks how he's doing, that's a flat, generic answer. That's skepticism underneath the hood. So that's a guy who doesn't trust the call yet, which is normal, and Pace hears it, so he immediately lowers the stakes. He says, this might only take a couple of minutes. After thousands of calls, that move is going to be pretty automatic. What he's doing, essentially, he's shrinking the risk of just talking to the seller. Now, here's Pace testing the waters. He floats seller finance for the first time. He says something like, hey, I'm an associate of so-and-so. I heard they were talking about you and maybe selling creatively. And Marvin just goes, no, I don't think I'm interested in that.
Just had a couple of questions. He said that you were still interested in selling the house and you were open to a little seller finance possibility.
What does that mean?
It means that you become the bank and we pay the number you're looking for and we make payments over time.
I don't think I'm interested in that.
This is probably one of the most important 30 seconds of the whole call, and almost everybody's going to get this wrong. So what most people hear is that the seller said no to seller finance. Dead end. What the experienced but still wrong investor does, they might jump in and start defending seller finance, selling it, explaining why it's great. But what Pace does is kind of funny. He just completely moves past it, as you probably heard. So he goes right back to asking about the property and about Marvin. So think of it like dipping a toe in to check the temperature. He was never going to pitch here. He just wanted to feel out where Marvin sat. He got his answer and he moved on. Because here's the thing, the guy doesn't need a pitch, he needs education. And how is he going to get any education if he doesn't care about a word you're saying yet? You don't win at this point by arguing, you win by learning. Now, check out the next stretch. He's going to get answers to the question of how the property's going, what the income is like, what the tenant situation is, and basically he's just getting Marvin to talk.
Is the house vacant right now, or is it the house you're living in?
It's rented.
Oh, it's rented right now. How long is the lease?
I don't have a lease.
Okay, so the tenants that are in there right now are month to month?
60 days.
Oh, God. Okay, so they got to give you 60-day notice before they even get out.
I got to give them 60 days. They got to give me 60. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. What? So, in a perfect world, what would you do with the property?
Sell it.
Okay, and at what price?
Well, for some reason, the city hadn't recorded a bedroom. I got a master suite I added,
Okay.
and it turns out I've been on a couple of those sites, and they give me they said it was selling for 270, but I don't think I'll get that. But they don't have. They got the bed as 3-bedroom. It's got 4, and the fourth one is a master suite. Now I spent a lot of money. I spent about $30,000 on that. So I don't know.
So the city has a room that's not in there, so you're not getting as much value as you'd hope.
So here's the next part that really trips people up. This section is all about rapport. Rapport, rapport, rapport. Pace isn't really sneaking in, objection handling. He isn't drip feeding the structure. He's just having a friendly conversation, and he's not tied to the outcome. Most investors, especially the newer ones, they might be glued to an outcome here and try to sell the structure, which is fine. They want to win the deal. That's normal, but it's natural to feel that way, but it's not what gets you there with a seller like this. Every bit of conversation, it's showing him what Marvin's actually like, what Marvin wants, what he values, and what he cares about. For the next thing I want to show you, we're actually going to jump just a little bit back in the video because it's something that, again, most people would probably just look right over. And that's about the label and why a wrong guess still wins. But what is a label? A label is when you call out with your words what it seems like or feels like or looks like the other person is saying. By bringing their feelings underneath out into the world, it helps to either confirm and validate their experience or it allows them an opportunity to correct it, which most people can't resist correcting if it needs to be.
Oh, it's rented right now. How long is the lease?
I don't have a lease.
Okay, so the tenants that are in there right now are month to month?
60 days.
Oh, God. Okay, so they got to give you 60-day notice before they even get out.
I got to give them 60 days. They got to give me 60. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. What? So
So that was the label right there, right at that moment. He says something like, so they'd have to give you 60 days notice to get out. And then Marvin steps in and corrects it. No, actually, I'm the one who gives them notice. So that right there, it's a tiny moment, but it's a big skill. Marvin put himself in the driver's seat. Maybe he wants to show that he's in control. Maybe he wants to show that he runs the place right. But either way, it's actually gold. And here's the lesson on labeling. It doesn't matter if your guess is right or wrong because you get the answer anyway. If you're right, you get a confirmation and now your read's locked in. And if you're wrong, it's no problem. People literally cannot help themselves. They'll jump in and correct you. And so you're going to learn either way. And then you just keep your seller talking. The next section is going to be about the price gap and the seller negotiating against himself.
if you think, well, what do you think you could get for it in the situation it's in right now?
Well, I think I'd be happy with 240.
Okay, you'd be at 240, and then you pay commissions and stuff out of that, and then you'd end up walking away with like 210, something like that.
So now they get to the price. Marvin throws out a number, ballpark 240. That's just what he thinks he can get out of it. But watch what Pace does. He didn't even flinch, and he didn't haggle. He just goes, okay, great. But if you sell in this market, you've got fees, title, insurance, inspections.
No. Um, I don't want to get less than 230 with commissions. I mean,
Okay. So I'm not a real estate agent, so I don't want to get confused. I'm not a real estate agent, nor would I ever be a real estate agent. So I'm not suggesting you pay me commissions if I buy it. I'm just suggesting if you do sell it on the market, you've got to sell it for a price that, is high enough that you would net 230. So you would have to sell it for 270 on the market, probably pay commissions, all that kind of stuff. And then you'd probably walk away with like 230 to 245, somewhere in that ball range.
They would be charged 6%.
6% plus you're another 3% with closing costs, home warranties, inspections, all that kind of stuff. So you're about 9% total. I think the national average right now is 11% is what it costs to sell a house.
So now Marvin's doing the math in his own head, and he's pretty much realizing, oh, after all that, I'm really walking away with more like 220. That's where you show the gap, the retail sale versus the creative sale. And it's because in Marvin's own math, it lands. He goes, okay, well, I just need to make sure I'm not walking away with less than 230. And that's what he's thinking in his head. But catch what happened. Pace pushed once, and the seller started lowering his own floor and then revealed the real number. That's the seller negotiating against himself.
So you'd be, if you sold it for 270, sounds like that'd be a hard stretch to get because you're missing that bedroom and you've got tenants in the house. So that might be hard too. So if you listed it, let's say you think you could list it for 250?
Well, I really, probably 249 or something.
Okay, so if you list it for 249, what do you think you'd get in your pocket after commissions, closing costs, inspections, maybe doing the permitting stuff, all that stuff?
So I want to call this part out again here. Pace is harping on the pains of selling through traditional sale. He's bringing to the forefront of the mind of what the sellers usually go through. And it's true, there's nothing that's being made up. But essentially, he's talking about all the other things that people tend to forget when they glamorize the price and they think about the sales price that they want.
Tell you the truth, I haven't really got to that detail. I want to think about that. I just know the market got pretty good, and then I started thinking about it again.
Right. Well, can I tell you?
Thinking about it again. So he has been considering selling his property, probably been riding on his radar for a little while now. That's more the pain showing up. That's more the pain starting to sink through the conversation there and showing that, well, he kind of does want to get rid of this property.
Can I tell you why I'm calling? Because I don't think selling it for cash is the way you should go. But again, you don't know me from Adam, so taking advice from me, is whatever. But my thought is if the highest you're going to get selling it on the market is a headache and maybe 220, 225 in your pocket, why not sell it on seller finance at 270?
So I don't know what I get into. So that's all I think.
And then at this point, after having some of these conversations and addressing and educating on some of this stuff and reminding him, hey, national average, it's 11%, taking that into consideration, Marvin didn't really have an answer to that. He was probably taken aback by it a little bit. And so this is a point where it does make sense to come in and say, well, why not do seller finance? Why not get the price that you're looking for? And we could do this so much faster and with so much less headache. So this next part in the clip, it's about being the bank and talking about things in stories, relating them to other people you've worked with. So you'll see here, Marvin asks the real question. I don't really know what I'd be getting into. What does it even mean to be the bank? So let's take a look.
You don't want to get into it? Is that what you said?
No, I don't know what I'm getting into when you're talking. I haven't looked at owner. I haven't looked at financing myself.
Well, it's pretty simple. Do you own it free and clear?
Yes.
Okay, and how much are you collecting in rent right now?
$1,550.
Okay. And then out of that 1550, you pay taxes, insurance, you pay all that kind of stuff. You probably end up netting around $1,100.
Uh, I paid flood insurance to it. It's on a creek.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So I don't know if I'm not making a lot of money.
Okay. So what if we came in and actually gave you a monthly payment and you acted as if you were the bank? And so we settled on a number of, like, let's say 270,000, and I started making you monthly payments on it, and you become the bank and I'm the new borrower.
Okay, why do you want to do that?
Well, because we buy a lot of real estate, and the fastest way to buy real estate is to avoid going through banks and going through all the application process. And think about, if I go to the bank to go get a loan on your house right now, what am I going to run into? The bank is going to say, hey, there's a non-permitted addition here. We need to have you, I got to deal with the same stuff you're dealing with in order for me to buy that house with the loan. So why would I go get a loan and have to come in and lowball you when I could come in and give you the number you're looking for? And in that situation, it's a win-win, because I can avoid going through the banks, and I could avoid having to go through the permit, and I can avoid going through all that kind of stuff. Everybody wins.
Okay.
So essentially, we would avoid the bank, right? At the end of the day, if I buy that house from you, I got to go through permitting to get that extra bedroom accounted for. I got to go through all that kind of stuff. But if I go to you and go to the bank of Marvin, and I say, hey, Marvin, let's create a promissory agreement that says I owe you $270,000. I give you a down payment, so you got some cash in your pocket, and then I make you a monthly payment, and you're the bank. I take over the headache of the tenant. I take over the headache of the creek and the insurance and all that kind of stuff. And you just collect a monthly check without a headache.
So what kind of down payment are you talking about?
All right. We've got more markers of success there. What kind of down payment are you talking about? That's telling us, so we're leading into the next step of the negotiation. So that tells us it's working as well. So if we just look back a little bit, what we just watched, here's the thing about how Pace answers. He doesn't lecture. He draws out the obvious. Well, what happens when you walk into a bank? And then he tells it as a story. Most of the time, the sellers I work with, other people I've done this with, or here's what they see. So things like that. Why should we do a story? Why should we talk about this in a story? Well, if you just tell someone the information, well, sure, you communicate it. But when you wrap it in a story like that, you're bringing in social proof. It makes the whole thing feel normal, because instead of talking about, oh, what you should do or what Marvin should do, you're talking about, oh, these are the experiences I've already had and it's worked out just fine, is essentially the feeling that you're communicating underneath. So when you're trying to win a seller over to creative finance, normal is exactly what you want it to feel. As we know from Marvin's situation, he was brought in and he had some idea about a seller finance situation. Maybe he just thought he was selling the house, and so he agreed to talk. But a lot of people, they might be doing this for the first time and they don't understand creative finance.
What do you do with a house when you get it?
We do a variety of things. Sometimes we turn them into assisted livings, right? Sometimes we turn them into behavioral health and we help people in bad situations. Sometimes we turn them into affordable housing. But ultimately, it's usually some sort of charitable thing that we're trying to help out people, and we get the government involved to help us out with all that kind of stuff as well.
All right, in this part, Marvin asking Pace what he's actually going to do with the property. Pace answers, again, with a story, not a sentence. Assisted living, behavioral health, housing that helps people, and he's talking about what they usually do with it. He's not making a specific commitment to Marvin that that's what he's going to do here, but he's throwing ideas out, and it gives the buffer to be able to suggest things like this without necessarily saying that that is the plan for the property. And this is actually the moment that the early detail pays off. So if you remember Marvin's wife, the one with Alzheimer's, the one that went to the care home, so most people would have filed that under small talk and forgotten it. Pace ties his whole plan for the property right back to it. He drops it a little at the start, a little in the middle, and then again near the end here. And it works on Marvin in two ways. One, it hits that deeply personal thing with his wife. Two, Marvin sounds like an older guy probably someone quite responsible, put in his years. People like that, a lot of them, they want to feel like they're giving something back into the world. And for someone like Marvin, who's in the position where he's deciding who he's going to sell his property to, if he's going to do on market or off market, seller finance type of thing, well, he could feel like he's giving something back, and especially something that is connected directly to his deeply personal experience with his wife. And this is actually a mistake that a lot of other people tend to make on calls as well. This is the point where some people might get on the phone and they might start hyping income potential and what they're planning to do. Oh, rehab the house, so we're going to overhaul it and make it beautiful. That's going to be worth so much more as a property, or they're going to do this or that to it. Well, sure, maybe in some cases for some properties that might be true, but that's just not what Marvin wants to see. It's not what he wants to hear. Marvin wants his house going somewhere that does some good. This isn't a real estate transaction anymore. This is really just about connecting with another human being and figuring out how you can make the deal happen.
So,
Here, let me. It sounds like we're not going to make a decision on this call, so let me plant a couple seeds, and we could do a follow-up call.
Right here, Pace is sensing that Marvin's not really ready to decide on this call. So taking the pressure off, something like this is great. Just sounds like, hey, we're not deciding today. Let's just leave you with a couple things. And that's a way to ease the pressure off and allow a little bit more into the interaction before you get off.
Okay. At the end of the day, here's the reason why people turn to seller finance. Okay. Number one, when you go and you sell it on the market, I don't care what you list it for, 249, 259, 269. That's not what you're going to put in your pocket. Right? You're going to walk away with, actually, this is how much money you'll walk away with. An unknown number. You're essentially crossing your fingers and hoping that you get as high as you can because you're waiting for a buyer and you're waiting for an agent to do their job. And then you got to pay an agent to sell your house. You got to go through all that kind of stuff. And maybe you walk out with 220 grand. Then when you get that 220 grand, what are you going to do with it? Now you don't have a return on it. It's just sitting in your bank account doing nothing. And with the way inflation's going, you're actually losing money. So most of the sellers that are selling it to us on seller finance, they say, look, I don't want to go through any of that headache. I just want the price I want, which for you, it sounds like 270 is the magic number. So let's say that we've come up with a magic number of 270. Instead of just selling it to me on payments, you can charge me interest. So now your investment is actually making you more money than 270 over time.
All right, so just to explain what had just happened there, taking the pressure off, it can be counterintuitive, but it's really powerful. The second you signal that you're not expecting a decision, then the guard can come down, and then a person with their guard down can hear new information. Then he stacks it afterward. It's not just the payments, you collect the interest too. So Marvin's now open to considering doing two things at once, being done with the headache of the property, and he's earning monthly income, more than the current rent, and that equity is still working for him. So this is a really strong closer move. So Pace basically asks, what would you even do with the cash from a normal sale? The honest answer is, not much, maybe park it somewhere random. So he reframes the whole thing. Okay, something we touched on a bit earlier is coming up a bit further in the call here. So I want to show this part to you as well. This is about where the details from earlier on are coming in for a payoff. So go ahead and just listen to what Pace is saying here in response to Marvin. Marvin's asking about what they're going to do with the house afterward. And Pace is bringing out those generalities about what they tend to do for their deals. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
Is that mostly people that minorities are trying to, I guess?
Yeah, they're just trying to help people and all that kind of stuff. That's not my business model. Our business model is trying to help people that are, they're going through assisted living. They're going through maybe memory issues, or people that have physical disabilities, or those types of things. That's our business model.
Right there. That's the piece where he's bringing it back in again. Memory issues, disabilities, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Okay.
And
Let me think about. Okay.
And now what we have from Marvin in response, 3 okays, but it's the way that he said it too. It's a string of okays, and Pace is intentionally silent here because what Marvin's doing is he's making the realization. This is where it all comes together. He built a rapport, brought out enough about the situation, talked about what he's going to get on traditional finance, what he's going to get on creative finance, and essentially establishing himself as someone who's actually going to help him do some good in the world if he chooses to sell the property to Pace. So that point right there, I think, is probably the most focal turning point. Internally, Pace is probably realizing as well that he's won this guy over, and we're going to actually be able to make a deal.
so I think with you, at the end of the day, it comes down to, do I want a higher price and do I want to squeeze out all my profit out of this house? Or do I just want all this money sitting in my bank account doing nothing?
Okay.
And that most of my sellers that are selling on seller finance are sitting there saying, man, I'm glad my money's just not sitting here doing nothing. Because if I gave you a check for $220,000 today, what are you going to do with it?
This is a part where it's going back and looping in more stories. It takes it a little bit out of that direct interaction, so it feels like it's bigger than just those two, right? That's where it makes it feel more like an advisory role, and that's really a winning strategy here with Marvin.
Invested in what?
Same stuff I invested the rest of my money.
Well, that's the thing is, if you seller finance to me, you are investing. You are a note holder in real estate. It's the greatest investment of all time.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you gonna call me back?
Yeah, here's what I would want to do. I'd want to figure out, it sounds like your magic number is 270,000. I'd like to figure out what's your down payment and what interest rate you'd like, and then let's have a follow-up call sometime next week.
Right there. So, and again, Pace is coming back and using more labels on the situation to get some confirmation about the different components of the deal. So the fact that Marvin's been on the phone this long and he's not trying to rush him off or get him off the phone, obviously he's interested. But these labels are really what brings out and moves the deal forward, because we're wrapping it up, we're summarizing it, and he's pulling out the numbers not only for Pace but also for Marvin, and gives it to Marvin all in one package so that he can sit there as they're getting off the call and consider that going forward.
Okay.
You good with that? Will you do some homework for me, and then we can touch base and have a conversation?
Yes, I'll do that.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you tremendously, Marvin.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so let's pull it all together. I said at the start, the point isn't to close. It's to move the negotiation forward and not to be afraid of no. So you've seen exactly why a no in the first couple of minutes didn't stop a single thing. So here's what to actually steal from this. When you hear no, just keep moving. No isn't the end. It's actually the start of the negotiation. It shows you where the boundaries are right now. The second thing is to align with the person as a person. You're there to have a conversation, and every piece of it tells you more about what they want and what they actually care about. And really listen. That's the big part that most people just in any other area of your life probably don't do so well. I mean, there's people that listen just to respond, and then there's people who listen to understand. So don't just wait for your turn to talk. Actually try to sit there and think about what they're saying and why they're saying it. And with the context of how they're saying it in there as well, you can start to piece together a little bit of what's behind what they're saying and start to draw out some of those feelings that might be hiding underneath. And if you remember from earlier in the video, it's things like those nervous little chuckles from Marvin. That's information right there. That's a man realizing for himself what kind of spot he's in. And in those thoughts and feelings underneath, it's really more than just being able to take these things down as notes to help steer the negotiation. Like, yeah, they absolutely can do that. But the other part is it's those little things, they help you figure out how you can connect on that person's level. Now for the third one, silence is your friend, not your enemy. After you ask a question or make a statement, just kind of let it sit for a bit. See what happens. There's a few points in the video where Pace did this either intentionally or unintentionally, but what happened in between in that silence, Marvin stepped up and he filled it in. He was negotiating against himself, or he revealed some key information, or like we saw with the point I brought out earlier where he said, okay. That point is where we could start to tell that, okay, he was really turning on his stance and he was really warming up to the idea of going with the creative finance route. Sitting there with the silence, it's going to feel awkward, but it also feels awkward for them too. And that's why they negotiate against themselves. So don't just sit there and stare someone down for a full minute. I mean, that's just going to feel really bad. It's going to feel really weird, especially if you're on camera and you're on a Zoom call or something like that. But what I'm really meaning by that is just give the conversation some room to breathe. Let them think. Don't step on it. And then for the overall feel, if you watch the video start to finish, and I'll give you the link below as well for that, for the original call, Pace stays calm the entire time. He has a low, clear, and almost late night radio DJ voice. He doesn't interrupt him. He doesn't sit there and try to convince him. Basically, he just led Marvin to figure it out himself. And so those things all together, they help to frame the conversation as though you are on their side. Because really in creative finance, when you're making deals, we're going for win-win situations, and that's the best outcome. After all that, you're probably wondering, okay, how do I actually start using this myself? Well, the real talk is it takes practice. Pace has been on thousands of these calls, probably listened to thousands more. And this is really more of a get in the reps type of thing. It's not going to click overnight. And I'll tell you right now, the first times you try it, it's going to feel really awkward and really weird. You'll feel self-conscious, like the seller can tell you're using some technique. But here's the truth though. The person on the other end, they don't know you well enough to tell the difference. So just give it a shot. That's the only way you build the muscle. Even between calls, keeping the stuff fresh, rewatching the parts you keep missing, replaying your own recent calls in your head and picturing how you do it differently, that actually trains your brain. It's reps and practice. It's your training ground for the next call. A lot of you are probably running some CRM or tool already, and honestly, it's really hard for software to teach you this. Even with the best AI in the world, no tool is going to make you react like this live on a call. But software is great at two things around the call: getting you ready before and not losing what you learned after. Think about everything Pace just pulled out of Marvin. The wife, the permits, the 230K floor, the fear of risk. That's deal gold, and here's where most people lose it. The second they hang up, that context lives in their memory, or a sticky note, or nowhere. Next call, it's gone. Worse, if you're on a team, nobody else can see any of it. That's actually the kind of thing I built my own software around. It's a CRM called Velocity Deal Engine. Before the call, Atlas AI is wired into the deal, the notes, the address, all of it, so it helps you work up the questions and objections you're likely to hit. I'll pull the property, the Zillow link, the photos, and just run scenarios with it. Who's the seller? What would they go for? I'm pre-gaming the call, and after the call, every one of those little observations gets captured on the deal in one place so it survives, and so anyone else on your team can see exactly where things are moving and why. Now, there's 100 ways to do this, and you don't have to use mine, but that's how I'd get up to speed faster, stack more reps, and stop letting hard-won context fall through the cracks. The link's below if you want it, and even if you never touch a tool, prep before, capture after, just start there, and I promise you will be in a much better spot than you were before. If this was valuable to your real estate game, subscribe. I'm breaking down a different creative finance call every week, pulling these hidden moves out into the open so you get sharper on your own calls. Down the road, as the channel grows, I might start taking on your calls, breaking down what's happening on your team's actual conversations. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.